Daily Devotion with Pastor Balla for April 15th, 2025. God answers Job from the whirlwind, from Job chapter 38, verses 1 through 3. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, "Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man, I will question you, and you make it known to me." After all the arguments, complaints, and silence, God finally speaks. He doesn't come gently. He answers Job out of a whirlwind, a display of power, majesty, and authority. It's a dramatic moment that changes everything. Job had longed for a response, had demanded an explanation for his suffering, and now God gives him one. But it's not what Job expected. God doesn't start with comfort or clarification. He begins with a question. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? It's a confrontation, not because God is angry in a human sense, but because he is correcting Job's limited understanding. Job had spoken sincerely, but had crossed the line. In his pain, he assumed too much about God's ways. This is a critical point. We can speak honestly to God, even boldly, but we must remember who he is. God is not our equal. He is not obliged to explain himself to us. He is the creator, and we are the created. There's a place for wrestling with God, but there's also a time to stop talking and listen when he speaks. Dress for action like a man sounds like a challenge, and it is. God calls Job to stand up and answer, not because Job has the strength to debate God, but because God is going to walk Job through a series of questions that reveals just how vast God's wisdom and power truly are. This is not about humiliation. It's about reordering Job's perspective. What's striking is that God does answer. God doesn't owe Job a word, but he speaks anyway. He speaks not to destroy Job, but to show him something far more important than the reason for his suffering. God shows Job who he is. And when we see God for who he truly is, that challenges everything. This passage reminds us that God is both near and holy. He meets us in our chaos, but he remains sovereign over it. The whirlwind isn't just a dramatic setting. It represents the unsearchable greatness of God. Sometimes his answers come in ways that shake us, but they also ground us in the truth of who he is. God's response to Job pulls the focus away from Job's questions and points to the deeper truth. God is always in control, even when we don't understand. And sometimes that's the answer we need the most. God's peace and many blessings be with you. And thank you for listening. And please take an opportunity to share this message with others.